when authorities arrived on February 25, 1957. They found that the naked body was that of a boy between the ages of 4 and 6 years old, but small for his age and displaying signs of severe malnourishment. His hair had been hastily, closely cropped into a sort of bowl-style cut, possibly just before or after death, as there had been clumps of hair still clinging to his body. The body was covered with bruises as if he had been severely beaten, but yet had been carefully, almost lovingly arranged in the box with his arms gently folded over his chest. Further examination of the body turned up some interesting clues. His fingernails had been carefully trimmed, and his hands and feet showed evidence that the body had been submerged in water for a long period of time, either just before or after the death, perhaps because he had been bathed. An examination of his eyes found that he had possibly suffered from chronic eye ailment of some sort. On the boy's ankle and groin had been scars and indications of having undergone surgery, and he had another scar under his chin. Medical examination would find that he had eaten approximately 2 to 3 hours before he died, and in his esophagus was found a dark brown, unidentified residue, thought to have been perhaps vomit. The cause of death was determined to be possibly from multiple severe blows to the head, but this is not certain, and the body was estimated to have been out in the woods anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks. It was difficult to determine an exact time due to the weather having been extremely cold. The crime scene itself held clues as well. The box was from the department store JCPenney and had been meant to hold a bassinet. The investigators found it promising that the box still had the manufacturer's serial number visible upon it, meaning that they could find out the exact shipment that it had come from. Additionally, there was even the address of JCPenney's that it had been bought at, which had been located only about 15 miles away. Not too far away from where the box had been dumped, there also was found a cap with a distinguished leather strap and buckle. The boy's fingerprints had been taken, pictures were heavily circulated, and authorities thought that they would quickly get to the bottom of the crime, but they would be proven wrong. The box turned out to be one of 12 bassinets sold to the store, but records in the purchasers had not been kept as they had paid in cash. 8 of the buyers would eventually come forward after reading about the case in the news, and all of them had either thrown away their boxes or kept them to store things in at their home. The other 4 buyers had remained unknown. A cab that had been found had also led to a dead end, even though it had been traced to a store run by Hannah Robbins, and despite the fact that she had distinctly remembered a man who had bought it, the payment had been made in cash and none of his information had been taken. Authorities had painstakingly gone door to door to every shop in town with pictures of the boy and the cap, but no one could recall even having seen either. The boy himself would prove to be the most frustrating and mysterious of all. His fingerprints were ran through hospital records and extensive databases, but did not come back with a single result. It was also found that no one had any record of a missing child fitting the description of what the media was calling the boy in the box. And despite hundreds of thousands of flyers and notices sent out nationwide, as well as countless law enforcement bulletins, including the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin, no one had come forward who knew about the boy. No family, no friends, no doctors, no one. Orphanages all over the country were also approached, but none of them had any information or knowledge about the boy as well. The American Medical Association passed out details on the boy's surgical scars in the hopes that a doctor somewhere may know him, but no one would come forward. Frustrated, authorities even went as far as to widely circulate photos of the boy fully dressed and in a sitting position to make him look more lifelike, but there was still nothing. Authorities did everything humanly possible to track down any hint of who the boy could be, and came up empty-handed every time. Some possible leads trickled in, but none of them led anywhere. And with the total anonymity of the boy, and with the lack of any records whatsoever, it was as if he never existed at all. It was totally baffling, as surely someone must have known him, and there must have been a worried parent or playmate out there who would have seen all of the media attention, but there was nothing at all. The boy was a complete cipher, as was whoever had killed him. It wasn't even known exactly how he died. The only person questioned on the crime was Frederick Benosis, the second person who had discovered the box, but he was soon cleared and released. With nothing to go on and the case unsolved, the mysterious boy was buried in Potter's Field on January 24th, 1957, with money gathered together by various detectives on the puzzling case. The boy's simple gravestone read, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy. February 25th, 1957. Although the case was officially closed cold, there were some detectives and investigators who refused to let it go, becoming somewhat obsessed even, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. Every possible clue had been pored over, and there were even psychics brought in to work on it, but it was futile, with no new answers forming out of the clouds of questions orbiting the case. Some possible leads did sporadically come about. One initially promising lead was a foster home just 1.5 miles from where the body was discovered, which was pointed out by a psychic that had been brought in out of desperation by medical examiner Remington Bristow, who had become one of the most tireless investigators on the case. At this foster home was discovered a bassinet of some type that could have been from the discovered JCPenney box that the boy had been found in, along with several blankets that were reminiscent of the one that the dead boy had been found wrapped in. Bristow suspected that the boy was living there and had been killed by someone in the home, possibly even the owner, Arthur Nicoletti, either intentionally or accidentally, but there was no concrete evidence to show that the home had even had the boy in the first place, and certainly nothing solid to link them to the crime. On November 3rd in 1998, the boy's body was eventually controversially exhumed in order to extract DNA in hopes that modern technology could shed some light on the case. But this also led nowhere, and the body was reinterred in November 11th, 1988, at the Ivy Hill Cemetery in Cedar Brook, Philadelphia, on a donated plot, and with the headstone reading America's Unknown Child. Another theory came forward in 2002 when a woman from Cincinnati, Ohio, only known as M, claimed that she had known what had happened to the mysterious boy. In a disturbing testimony, M claims that in 1954, her mother had purchased the boy from his parents for cash, after which he had been subject to horrific physical, psychological, and sexual abuse. According to M, her abusive mother would frequently beat him and had accidentally killed the boy, who they had named Jonathan. All of this would occur in a fit of rage by smashing his head into the floor after he had thrown up in the bathtub. Since the story seemed to fit so well with the evidence and details at hand, but became suspicious when it came light that the woman making the claims had had a history of mental problems, considering that there was also no hard evidence corroborating the story either, along with denials from the woman's neighbor that such a thing had even happened. The lead was eventually dropped. However, over the years since, there have been occasional new leads that have turned up from time to time, but so far, none of them had led to any new answers upon this mysterious and most baffling case.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit that little bell if you want to be the first to see more.